So hello, everybody. Welcome and thank you again for joining in our weekly meetings on Thursdays with IterateUX. I am Rupendra. I will be your host today. And I'm super excited to be kicking off this week's User Experience Research Challenge workshop. So I know you guys have been working really hard for the last few weeks, working closely with your mentors, your stakeholders, companies, and your teammates, doing user research and coming up with all your findings. An equally important part of it all is presenting your findings, how you are going to be making sense of all the user research and taking actionable steps. So that is exactly what today's workshop is about. We have Yagmur, who is a senior UX researcher at BuzzFeed, and Liz, who's a product designer at Vertro, giving us a workshop on how to present your research findings more effectively to stakeholders and create a UX research case study. So before I begin, just a quick recap about IterateUX and what we do here. We are an open Discord community who helps UXers learn, connect, and grow your career. So cool thing about us is people of all levels are welcome, whether you're trying to get into the industry or you're trying to skill up a specific skill set. Everybody's welcome. So we host weekly events and coffee chat sessions with guest speakers who share their expertise and experience on this field. We also host feedback sessions for your design work as well as your portfolio and resume. And we're always looking forward to hosting design and whiteboarding challenges to keep upskilling your designing skills. A few housekeeping items for today's event. Please make sure you're muted during the presentation. So since we have two speakers today, we'll have an open Q&A session after each mentor presents their slides, and we'll be announcing that pretty shortly. So during that time, you can unmute yourself, share, or ask anything. Meanwhile, you can make use of the chat to ask your questions or comments, and we'll be saving them for the end of each section. And we're always excited to see you every Thursday at our weekly events. But do keep in mind that next week there is no workshop. Meanwhile, you can stay engaged in our Discord community, start a conversation, stay connected with one another. And please remember to be kind and most importantly, have fun. Do check out our social media channels to check out what's going on, maybe share with your friends or anyone who might be interested. And also you can provide us feedback on how we can improve what we're doing here. CJ, our moderator, will also be sharing links to keep networking with one another, where you can share your LinkedIn profiles so we can connect. And if you do want to get more involved with this community, you can sign up as a mentor or a volunteer, and that link will also be shared in the chat. And if you do like what we're doing here at IterateUX, feel free to support us by sending a donation to Coffee. Everybody here is a volunteer, so all the donations you make is going straight back into helping us improve our services, and any amount is greatly appreciated. So after today's workshop, we're really excited to see your guys' work, what you guys have been working on for the last few weeks through the presentation days. So they will be separated into 2 different days. The first will be on Tuesday, November 29th, and the next will be on December 1st. And we cannot wait to see what you guys have been working on for the last few weeks. So with all that, I would like to now pass it on to Yagmur, who will be going through the first part of the workshop. So yeah, Yagmur, it's all yours.
Cool. I'll start sharing. Oh, sorry. Okay, so hi everyone. Today I'll be talking about how to create UX research findings presentations for stakeholders from your research insights. We will talk about the types of reporting you can do, the important components of the report, and I will at the end share templates and resources that you can use and get help from. Starting with the UX research reporting types. You can report your research findings through basically in any format, including presentation, PDF format, articles, booklets, in any shape and form that you feel is the most appropriate for your audience, aka your stakeholders. Communicate with them, ask them their preferred methods, and select the most appropriate methodology based on what they want, as well as what is appropriate for your research. I personally love and prefer the presentations. In most cases, most user researchers present their reports in presentation formats because it's an easier approach to tell a compelling story. Like, it gives you an opportunity to build your storytelling. It offers high engagement opportunities. It allows stakeholders to interact with artifacts better, and you just get to capture their attention better as well. But sometimes, like, very high level stakeholders who cannot make it to the presentations or who can't go through like long presentations, they might prefer like a short PDF summary of that report. So in those cases, what I like to do is I prepare a presentation from my report, a detailed one, and then summarize it in a PDF format and share it with the top level executives if they need to. The components of that presentation of that report is created from four main parts. First one being the introduction section, which is what you did and why. So during the introduction section, you talk about, like, you introduce what did you do, meaning like the background of your research, why you did this research, like the objectives and the goals. When did you do the research? Which methodology you used? How many participants were there? What were the criteria for that? And any other possible relevant information that you want to present to introduce to the people that you're presenting your report to and let them know that this is what happened. Because not everyone might be familiar with what you did. They might not have been involved in that. They might be coming into your presentation months after, years after, and might not remember what happened. So it's really important to give them like a good rundown of like what happened, why it happened. You probably have most of these information that you present in your presentations in your research plan. So you prepare this information already mostly in your research plan. You just reintroduce them to your audience for them to remember what was done and for what. And this is like an example that how it could look like. It's a very compressed example. Obviously, I didn't include that extensive information on this example that you should, but you should give more details in your presentation. But it could have like 4 different sections, 5 different sections, depends on what you want to introduce. And after you introduce your research, you jump to the insights. Which is what you learned from the users. What happened? Like, what happened? What did you learn from the research? Let me stop here for a second. So here, you should be careful about not sharing everything you heard from the users with your audience, but sharing enough for them to understand what happened and why you're making those conclusions that you'll do. Only share the important insights, only share the things that are relevant for them to know. Share what you think they're interested in learning from you, the high level learnings. For example, what are your stakeholders' high priority interests? Is it that your research is going to impact the revenue, the click rates, the business metrics, or is it that how to make your product's language more approachable, relatable, or fun? Or is it to focus on those new features? So here is basically how you propel your story forward in a way that makes sense. The trick here is to not only focus on the positive insights or only for the negative insights. Show both sides, show what happened transparently, but succinctly. Tell them what worked well, what didn't, and this is why, this is how it did happen. So before you jump into the details of your insights, you should always start with the summary. Not always, but I like to start with the summary of what you learned. Explain the main learnings, main takeaways to prepare your stakeholders on what to expect, what's coming with your insights. Focus on like what you thought, versus what you learned, what you thought was going to happen, what you assumed that was going to happen, but what you actually learned, but like only high level ones, and then explain them further in the next insight slides, which I will give you examples in a bit. This is just an example that I have here, but you can redesign how it looks. I sometimes choose to present my summary of insights in this format where it highlights the, like, for example, 3 main points or 3 main takeaways that they will hear from what I'm about to tell them in more detail later. But this is the overview. This is the high level of what you're going to hear, just so you're aware, kind of a thing. You can use any other format, but like giving a summary is always a great start to kind of flare up their interest, their excitement. And then afterwards, after providing that high level summary of your findings, you can go more in depth on what happened. So now that you caught their interest on like what they might hear, what they're going to hear, you can now go into more details. It's important to create themes, like through lines, to help your stakeholders digest the insights easier. You don't just throw them like, here are 30 insights. Divide up into themes, divide up into categories, so they can understand them one by one and digest it better. So grouping them into themes always help. It provides digestible information to avoid that information overflow. So I'll give you an example. For example, you have your summary of insights, and then you want to jump into the themes, right? So you introduce the first theme. This is our first theme of insights. And then following that, you have your insights here. You often want to have one main insight in one presentation slide, and that supporting details right under that, explaining that main insight here that you like wanted them to pay the most attention to. And these explanations take this point into further details. Always include quotes, artifacts, video clips, screenshots, photos, something from your participants that could gauge the interest of your stakeholders and help them empathize with your users. But most importantly, they'll believe in your research significance better, because they'll be like, okay, yes, the users actually said that. Okay, yes, I can see that users did that. Not everyone will have a chance to come into your sessions and observe participants. So here's very important to include those quotes, those artifacts. I also sometimes in that pink corner, pink box that you can see, I always include actionable items, but I sometimes include them with insights, or I sometimes introduce them at the very end of my research presentation. So you can have your actionable recommendations with every insight like this, or you can, if they're so clear and if they're so directed to this one insight, or you can present them at the very end all together if they are based on all insights combined later on. And if you want to add even more spice to your story, you could include your participant artifacts like in this format, give them their own slides, throw them into your entire presentation where that quote is super strong. You want it to be so loud. You want all your stakeholders to actually hear what this participant said, because it's so relevant to your findings. It's so relevant to your insights and your actionable recommendations. So you can spice it up with this kind of materials and artifacts. And for usability testings, for example, you might want to include videos, screenshots that from that mobile phone or the website that they were interacting with. So you can take screenshots or even add video clips here and play it for your stakeholders. So this is how you present themes and insights on presentation reports for user research findings. And after you present all the themes, all the insights, let's say you have 5 themes, each theme have like 3-4 insights each, you then summarize everything once again. Not like the very first time that you summarize it, but in this time it's more in detail for your audience to capture everything and digest everything better and actually really remember what was the very first theme of insights, what was the very first insights. So here you want to like reiterate what happened and what you want your audience to leave the presentation with. You can lead, like, it's often the best practice to list like 5 to 7 points, not to overwhelm your stakeholders, but those main themes, main takeaways that came out of your research, and make sure if a stakeholder only reads this slide at the end, or if an executive only reads this slide at the end, they will understand the gist of your research and they can make strategic decisions out of it. Think about this as the dessert after dinner, like you wrap things up with your audience, and that they can walk away with something that's delightful, that's actually like, okay, I got it now and I'm full. This is perfect. So focus on the most important insights here, the major themes that came out of your research, and tie it with what's important to the business, what's important to the stakeholders. Like, why should they care about what you talked about for 20 minutes to them about the insights? What should they take away from them? Like, explain the so what. So what? Like, okay, we heard all these insights, but so what? Like, what are they telling me? Summarize it. Let me know in digestible format, like, what can I take away from it? And last but not least, you should never skip this part where you present recommendations that comes out of your research insights with the next steps that you believe the team should do. Some researchers skip this part where they don't really present recommendations to their stakeholders, which is when that research is going to be forgotten. Nobody's going to remember that research, and then researchers wonder why people, like stakeholders, do not take their research value, do not understand their value. This is where you show your value. This is where you say, okay, I made all this work, and this is how it's going to impact your business. This is how we can make this actually proactive. So here with your recommendations, make sure they're actionable. You're actually directing your team to listen to the user and take a step into a specific direction here. For example, you can tell them to redesign a feature or redesign the icons at the navigation menu because they were confusing to most users. Or you can recommend them to explore new concepts because those fit in the user's needs and expectations from this product much better based on the insights that you just presented. So you just want to list the main recommendations that you were suggesting throughout this presentation. If you introduce them as you were talking about each insights, just recap them. You can also introduce them here at the very end only. You don't need to introduce inside recommendation. You can do that if it's appropriate, but if not, you can just introduce your recommendations at the very end. With recommendations, you want to lead the stakeholders into a strategic direction by showing them how can this research findings and the story that you just told can help them proactively, that they can actually do, like how can they make those insights turn into real life decisions. And at the end of your presentation, often you end it with suggesting the next steps that they can take to get to the recommendations that you presented. Like, for example, you can say regroup and discuss research findings to brainstorm further, or this is where you guide your stakeholders on what to do as a researcher and expect them to do with the next steps, with the new knowledge that they now have because of your research, such as you can be like, adopt product roadmap according to the research findings, or update the designs the way that I recommended you to do. Or let's do another research workshop to see what other research questions this project helped you start questioning. Tell them what is coming next from research and what should come next on their end based on what you just found and recommended. And I also include some templates, resources, artifacts for such research presentations, as well as some other artifacts here, which I love this template. This article is also attached in this under this resources. You will be shared the link of this presentation at the very end of this workshop. Feel free to click on them, explore them further. They're very useful resources here that you can benefit from. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Yagmur, for that first half of today's workshop. Did anybody have any questions related to this topic? Feel free to unmute yourself or also drop your questions in the chat.
Yagmur, we do have some questions in the chat box.
Okay.
So people are asking if they can just copy the stack directly.
I don't recommend you copying the stack because this is not like this stack is not actually a research report presentation. But what you can do is you can copy the template of, for example, the insights here, like the theme, the insight theme one. Like you can copy the template here, like for example, in this slide, or the examples that I've given you here, and throughout this entire presentation here. But this itself is not a research report presentation. Therefore, like this wouldn't be a good report presentation, but you can copy the themes of the examples that I presented to you here. Like, for example, these things. You can copy this as a structure.
Kayla, did Yagmur answer the question? If not, you can unmute yourself to elaborate a little bit more.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, she actually answered my question. As I was typing the question into the chat, I was wondering if I can have a copy of the presentation.
Oh, yeah. We are going to share the link for sure at the very end of this workshop.
So stay tuned. You have to stay all the way to the end. Yeah. And we do have another question, Michelle. She said that you mentioned that don't try to fill out the template or story or do a product walkthrough, but how do you focus on later?
So if I understand correctly, like tips say that don't try to fill out a template. Like, yes, use the template as an outline. Like not every research report is the same as the other. You're trying to give different information away. Like it's sometimes usability testing, sometimes interviews. They all have like different information trying to pass to the stakeholders, trying to make your stakeholders understand and digest, right? So you can take the outline, meaning this, for example, we can make sure that you have these 4 main points on your research report. And in between, you can fill it as you wish. You don't need to you don't need a template to fill. If it fits your presentation, perfect. If not, definitely adopt it and make sure that it actually takes your story and you can actually tell a good story with that presentation, right? For example, here I say in your insights, I start with summary, but if it's not applicable to you, you can skip the summary and just jump into the insights and themes. But not every research presentation template is not going to have this kind of recommendation. So whatever works for you, whatever works for your stakeholders, definitely do not just copy paste the template that might not fit your reporting, but adopt it as it's appropriate.
Michelle, feel free to unmute yourself if we didn't follow up.
Just the latter question as well, if you can point to that real quick about how do you articulate your design decisions and really tell a story rather than, just like what you mentioned, following this rigid template or telling people how you did it.
Mm-hmm.
Because if, you're coming from the UX design world, everybody knows, okay, these are the methodologies. Is it worth mentioning, all of the basic terminologies as well as how you work through this? So I was just curious, how would you, it's kind of like, I feel like you do need to tell them how you did it, but also tell your story. But there seems to be more emphasis on the latter part. Tell your story instead of I did this and I did that.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So in the introduction, you want to explain who you spoke with, why did you do this research? It's not necessarily I did this, I did that, but you're saying that we did this research because, for example, like we were having high churn rates and we were concerned what's happening, like why people are not clicking through this or why we weren't getting new users. Why is that happening? So you just explain like what was the problem, like explain your problem space here. And then also explain like this is the people that we spoke with because this and that, not necessarily like just like you're giving kind of an introduction on and preparing them on like what they're about to hear. Where is that coming from? So here might sound a little bit like this is what I did, but here's only one small part of that story, which you literally introduce the characters, right? As if you're reading a fictional book, you're introducing the characters, you're telling the scene of that like house that the story is happening at. So, and in the insight section, you don't just say like, user said this, user said that. You're analyzing it, right, as a researcher. So what is your analysis? What should the stakeholders take out of from these insights? Like, what are their takeaways? So in your analysis, you should have already done that part of like storytelling briefly and apply it here. Like, users didn't like this functionality because it was like the language was confusing. They interpret the language in this way rather than that way, which affected their expectations from this page in a specific way. And that's how their experience was like demolished. And that's how they left the product and they never wanted to come back because they weren't just say it in a story way, like explain what happened instead of like users didn't like this. That wouldn't bring the story. But if you explain what happened in detail without saying everything users are saying, but that's why the analysis part is very important. Like, you are picking out the important sections and explaining why those things are happening and turn it into a story in your presentation. I hope this answers your question, but the storytelling aspect is a whole other topic that every researcher is always trying to build themselves better in. But it's a totally like different topic where like I would need a whole new presentation to get into like how to tell a good story with your research findings.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Perfect. So I don't think we have any more questions on this. Yeah, so
sorry, we do have 2 more questions, but I think we need to move on later to come back for the questions.
Yeah, we're on the halfway mark. So I'd like to now switch on to Liz, who's going to be giving us a workshop on creating a UX research case study.
Hello, everyone. Can you see my screen, my
Yep.
presentation?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Great presentation, Yagmur. So now the second part of this is when you finish your project and you will meet with your clients or when you will present the community, and then your work doesn't stop there. You have to rewrite your report in a case study for your portfolio. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. And I'm going to give you some tips and show you how this is different from a report for the client. Okay, but for whoever is here and doesn't know me, my name is Liz. I'm a product designer at Virtual. We create virtual reality experiences for training, especially for language training. I have been many things. I've been in my life. I have been a software engineer. I taught Spanish for a while. I have been a coding instructor. I travel a lot, so I have as a very good UX designer, I have a mix of a lot of things I've done in my life. So I have a very broad vision of things. Currently, I'm learning to sketch. Something I really felt frustrated all my life. I couldn't draw. So I'm learning to draw now, and it's quite fun. And if I really like to read, right now I am reading this book called Do Nothing by Celeste Hadley. If you are reading something interesting, design related or not design related, put it in the chat, because I really like to look for new books to read. And by the way, if you are interested in research, being a user researcher, she has a book called We Need to Talk. And is very good. She's a journalist and opera singer, and she knows she's very good interviewing people. And interviewing is a very good skill to have as a UX researcher. And she gives you a lot of tips about how to really listen to someone. And that book helped me a lot for doing user research. So I really recommend that book. Okay, let's go to what I'm going to talk about today. This is a presentation to tell you, give you some tips how to write your case study for a for a researcher study. But these tips apply to your portfolio in general. Okay, I will give you some tips, especially for research, but this is for your whole portfolio too. So we are going to talk about what is a portfolio, what is your user of your portfolio, how different portfolio pieces look different, what are the mistakes as a junior designer or very experienced designer you are maybe doing in your portfolio, and how you can make a better case study from learning from those mistakes. Some final thoughts, and then we will jump into some questions. So this is the question. I normally do portfolio reviews, and this is a question I really like to ask sometimes is, what is a portfolio? This is not a report. This is not something you do for the school, for college, for your clients. This is one of the main components of your job application. And what you are trying to show in your portfolio is you are answering this question, why should they hire you? Okay, so because of that, it has to be attractive. And you have to be very clear that this portfolio won't give you a job. Nobody will go to see your portfolio and say, wow, this is an amazing designer, you are hired. Okay, so you don't need to tell the story of your life in your portfolio. The portfolio will give you an interview. So it has to be attractive enough, it has to be short, precise, and it has to highlight why you are special. Why should I spend my time going in an interview with you? Okay, so just keep that in mind. So as good UX designers, meet your user. You have to make your portfolio for this person here. This person it can be a recruiter, it can be a UX designer, but they all have in common, they don't have time. Okay, they don't have time to read your portfolio. They have a big problem in the company. That's why they are hiring. So they need to solve something specific. Maybe they are doing some research and they need more people. They are working in creating their design system, or they are working and doing a redesign, a UI redesign. So I will be looking for a specific profile. So I am going to review those portfolio in that light. Like, this is what I need. This is what I need to see in your portfolio. They are already overworked and they have seen so many vanilla portfolios. They all look the same. I don't know who I need to ask for. Probably I will end up asking for interview or for the people who are recommended. So someone recommended to me. But if someone sent me the portfolio, the resume just like that, maybe, and I see the portfolio and it's very standard, probably I won't care. Okay. So here I recorded myself looking at a portfolio like in real time, and I was reading and I was looking for the things I wanted to see in this portfolio. And this is the speed what I did. I stopped in some points in some part of the portfolio, but definitely if you see this animation, you will see that I'm not reading what is there. I'm reading the titles, I'm reading the bold things, I'm paying attention to the graphics and all the images, and then I'm getting an idea of how much this person know and how much this person have done in their work. Okay, so what I'm trying to discover what this person have done in the past, the main strengths. What about the design thinking? Does this person follow a certain methodology? Is attention to detail? Is the portfolio like perfect, clean, without mistakes, grammar mistakes, different colors all around, the typography, everything? I will look at that because that tells me how precise this person is, okay? And I want someone like really, really careful about things. So when you are working in your portfolio, you should have different types of project. This event that IterateUX is organizing is very good because it's especially for UX research, and that's very difficult to get in real life. So this is just your opportunity, not to shine and just put everything you want there. Really, really focus in what is a UX research study. So, for example, you can have different portfolio pieces in your portfolio. One, it can be, for example, something you did really well in UI. You work in a design system on colors and typography and all that thing. So that portfolio piece has to be absolutely beautiful. You really use visual hierarchy to show things. It visually has to be very impactful. Okay. But if, let's say, you have another portfolio piece that is about a redesign you did for a website. So what I want you to highlight there is your design thinking, how the usability improvement, how did you change this to make it better for the user? Or how did you change this to align the business objective with your product? So tell me, it's not, I didn't do a UX redesign because the webpage was ugly. No, it was because something else. So I want you to show me all the process you went through to make this UX redesign. And finally, is what we are talking today. Let's say you have this UX research, specific UX research case study. I want you to show me how much you know about human-centered design. What do you do to meet your users, to know about them, to know about the market, not only the persona you maybe selected, but from all that market out there, the possible clients your company can have. Why did you select this specific segment and all those things? So I want you to tell me how clever you are to go there, select the right people I want to sell to, and then give me back some information. And finally, we are going to build this product thinking of users. I want you to put the user first. So I'm going to talk now about the main portfolio mistakes I have seen and how you can solve those mistakes in the research case study. First, everything looks the same. Okay, I had this quote from someone here called Ben. So all the applicants detail the same processes. Instead, what they should do is highlight a specific skill set and what they did different in that project. So this is a UX research study. And so what you will do is to take the report you did for your client, and you have to translate that to tell the story, not about your research itself, is tell the story of what did you do in this research, why you took these decisions, why you selected this kind of presentation, like a lot of things. I want you to tell me how you work as a researcher. Okay, so now the introduction, it won't be too much about the introduction of the case study itself, the project you finish. In the introduction, I want to see how big was your research study? How many people you interview? About the company, how big was the company? The justification. The justification is not I participated in an event in IterateUX. No, your justification is why your client needs this research, what they are looking for. Okay, so I want to understand you were clear about your space problem. Then when you present the insights, you will take that from the report you generated before. I want to see the main findings, and I want you to connect the main findings with the actions you suggested to the client. And if you redesign something or you change some processes or some service or whatever, I want you to tell me, this is what I found. This is what I want you to do to make it better, and this is why. And that why is very important. then in that way, you have to show how much you know about your design thinking, why you took those decisions. Because this is real life and you are working with real companies, tell me what the company actually agree and they will going to implement the actions you propose, or why they didn't do it. Okay, because if I'm hiring a designer, I want someone who has strong opinions, like they know what they are doing, but I want someone who is flexible too. And I don't know if you have done real life research studies before, but there are so many things you can do in real life. For many reasons, the company doesn't have the budget. You couldn't maybe convince your stakeholders that was the thing you wanted to do. There are many things that happen in that space. So tell me, if they disagree with something, what did you try to do to convince them? And you can say, finally, the company didn't have the budget to do this, and that's fine. It's out of your control, but you were aware of that. What next? Let's see. Let's say you wanted to have, 15 one-on-one interview with users, but you got only 2. Okay, so maybe in the what next you can say, we got some insight from that, but I would like to have interview 5 people more because of something. Okay, but give me some ideas that the research wasn't perfect, but what else you want to do with that, and you didn't have the chance to do it. And the lessons learned, that's very important. Let's say you created a survey, and then you sent the survey and you have 50 answers back, but then when you were writing the insights and you realized you forgot to add this question was very important, and now some things doesn't make sense, and just screw it up. Doesn't matter. Maybe you can say lessons learned. Maybe I should iterate in my surveys first. So maybe I can send it to 2-3 people and then try to write a report based on those 2 or 3 to see if I have enough information, and then iterate, maybe add more things, and then send it to the 50 people I want to send it. But those things are something maybe you learn when you are doing something. So it doesn't matter if you screw up and you forgot something, but this is telling me, you have a critical thinking. You can go back and you can see what you missed, and so the next time I know you won't make the same mistake. Okay, so this is, you have to highlight that you learn something. Another mistake. This is not a report. Nobody wakes up in the morning and think, oh, such a wonderful day. I'm going to open this portfolio piece and I'm just going to read this case study because it's so much joy. No, that doesn't happen. Okay. So in your portfolio, you won't write the same things in the same ways you wrote in the report for your clients. Use storytelling. Yagmur said this is a completely new thing, but look for storytelling resources in the internet. So in the case study, you have to be the hero of the thing. Think of you meet me someday on the street and you have 5 minutes to tell me about this case, this user research for this client. What are you going to tell me? Okay, so you start, this company has this problem. I have to went out and talk with people. I did surveys and things, and then I found out we have these problems, but we were not sure. I talked with the client, but the client say no, that's not true. So then I went back and did some secondary research. I did some competitive analysis. I checked other competitors' review, and then I mixed that with my findings, and then I talked with the client again, and the client say, no, we can't do this because. So, and then, okay, so when I went back, I realized that the client was not maybe in tune with what I was saying. So I just took these 2 most important things I consider were important to change in the product, and I really work on them, and I went back, and my client was very happy after that. Don't add the last one. This is the story how I saved the company, because that's too much, but you get the point, So you have to tell me the story of your struggles, It's like a hero, like you are in the climax of the movie, and everything is going wrong, and finally, yay, everything is okay. Okay, so that's the way you have to tell me the story, not only for a research study, for all the stories in your portfolio. The next thing, be honest and keep it real. I like this what I was reading. I will read it to you. My project will need a persona, then a journey map, then sticky notes, and then all the process, because that's the thing they taught me in college or in the boot camp. But this is the real life. And real life, we can't just take something and try to apply everything to what you learn in real life. If you study anything, if it's not even design, if you have another career, you realize that whatever they taught you there, then when you started working, like everything was a mess. You had to improvise, you have to do many other things in a different way. So as a person who is trying to hire a designer, I don't expect you to have everything there, like everything they taught you in the bootcamp. I want you to choose what is important for this particular problem, and I want you to apply only those things. So when you are writing your case study, think of what artifacts work for your problem. Something it's always very curious. I'm always very curious about the personas. Like everyone put personas there. I don't know. It's like personas is not just something you do and you put there because they look cool. You can put a photo and if your company doesn't work with personas and they didn't connect it with that, look for other things like jobs to be done or something like helps you to explain things to your client. But don't try to tick all the boxes. So if you had to skip something because you didn't have time, because the client didn't like it, because of whatever, okay, just explain to me I didn't do it because of this. Not all the research studies will end up in a redesign of a UI or something like that. So, but I know many people really they have very good UI skills and they want to put something at the end about the beautiful screens and all that. No, if it was not necessary, if the result of your research study was something else, maybe it was improve a service, it was not even a website, don't add any UI, it's not necessary. And make sure you use whatever you need to answer the business questions. If that means you went to talk with with friends, if you didn't find users, do it. Everything is valid. And I think this is the last tip. Always show your UI, UX skills. I used to be like that, and I keep hearing people saying, I'm a researcher. I'm not looking for a job, or I'm a UX designer. I'm not looking for a job as a UI, so I don't care. I don't have good UI skills, so this is what you get. No. You have to be very careful about showing that you at least have some knowledge about UI, because this is something you will end up doing in your job anyway, in some point. Maybe a little part of your job, but someone will come to you and ask you for some ask you for some tips and things. So you have to have some good UI skills. If you feel like you don't have those, look for a template that looks beautiful and then put it in your portfolio. Okay. And especially for the research case study, because it tends to be a little heavy. It's a lot of explanations and numbers and insights and things. So try to use good UI to show your case study. So for example, make information easy to find. Use element tips for how can you use visual hierarchy to tell me what is more important, how I can skim through your case study very easily, about color contrast. If you have some images or these kind of things, make sure they click and they open in everything is readable. the use of the white space. Don't cram everything together there. Just give some air. Help me to read your case study. And there are many UI techniques you can use for that. Here, for example, some inspiration. I was looking for some case studies from researchers. I love the first one. He was explaining how they conducted the research. So they actually look for two little icons, with people in scooters, and then tell me like they have to follow someone riding a scooter using their product. It was fascinating. So I saw this and I fall in love with the case study. So I really feel like keep reading this. It was very interesting. Use infographics, Canva. That's free. Try not just to tell me numbers. Show me some charts and graphs and things, and that will help me to make the reading less heavy, and it will help you to. It will help me to go through your full case study without just scrolling and, I want to finish soon. If you make me interested in your case study and your portfolio, I'm definitely going to call you for an interview. So just to finalize, final thoughts, please keep it simple. I like this quote: writing 1,000-word case study is easy. Saying the same things in 500 words takes effort. Show that effort. This is a very good article. I'm going to share the presentation with you, and all the things has the links there. It's a very nice article about the difference with the junior and more senior designers' portfolio. It's very interesting. So yes, I want to finish the presentation with a challenge. When you are going to write your case study, start first with the storytelling part. Just give me some point saying, what was the story? I did this first, and then this happened, and then I got this problem. I solved it like that, blah, blah, blah. And then have that. And when you are happy with that, if that is telling you full story without details, it's just what happened in your case study, then take your report and try to fill each point with more information. If there is something in your report that is out of one of those points, is going too far, don't put it aside, because that's not important for the person who wants to hire you. Okay, so I know normally you start with a full case study and then you try to make it shorter. Don't do that. Start short and then add the details, and you will see that you will have a much more compelling and interesting and attractive case study. And remember, portfolio gives you interviews, nothing more. You don't need to tell the story of your life. You don't need to tell everything you know. Just a sample, attractive enough so I can say, oh, I like this person. I will spend 30 minutes in an interview. Okay. Yeah, that's all. Any questions?
Perfect. We do have some questions in the chat. If anybody would like to unmute, you can do so as well to share anything or ask anything as well. If not, we can go through some questions on the chat.
Excuse me, Rupendra. I would like to ask my question to Liz.
Sure.
So I recently read somewhere that it is always nice to have like two different versions of a case study, a longer and a shorter one. Mm-hmm. So what would be your suggestions to put for a shorter version? The longer version is very common. We know it has to be detailed, but what to put in the shorter version of this case study?
Yeah, excellent question. I will say always show in your portfolio the short version, the summary. And if you really feel like this was a great case study and you want to show the full thing, you can do two things. You can say your short story there, and then at the end of the case study, you can say, if you want to see the full version, click here, and then you can open the full thing. Or you can say, if you want to see the full version, download the PDF here or something, because maybe someone is really interested to know all the details of the case study. But I will always say the portfolio, someone is going to take 3 minutes to read your case study. Don't put the full version there as a main thing. Put it maybe at the end of the case study.
Thank you, Liz. That helps.
You're welcome. I haven't been following the chat, so if someone can help me with if there's any question there.
Perfect. So yeah, we had some questions on the chat as well. Let me see.
Oh yeah, vanilla portfolios is like common portfolio. Like vanilla flavor is the boring flavor, So that's vanilla portfolios.
So Yasmin also had a comment to Liz, saying, "Kindly write the name of the book again, please." I'm not.
Maybe the book we need to talk. I am writing this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this book is very good. It's actually how to ask questions, how to listen, how to follow up with people, how to be in the right mindset to start talking with people and ask those questions and really get those insights that nobody else will be able to get. It's a very interesting book. It's not a UX designer book at all. It's something else.
Awesome. So we kind of going back to our previous presentation to Yagmur. We had a question from Yasmin. Will the workflow based on priority tasks? I think she's saying, is the workflow based on task decided after the research has happened?
Workflow.
Yasmin, if you'd like to, maybe if you want to clarify, please feel free to do so as well.
Hi, my question was to Yagmur, and that was as we had a research and we list out these tasks, and when we decide the workflow, will be that workflow based on the task that we prioritized. Is it
so? Workflow, you mean like the flow of your presentation?
Oh, yes.
So let's say if it's usability testing, it makes more sense to start presenting from like the onboard, like the earliest screens towards the later screens, because if something, for example, if most of the users were confused about one aspect, that literally restricted them to move on to the next task and confuse them further in the next task because you're using the same terminology, same language, same iconology, etc. Then it makes sense to start with the very first page that you conduct your usability testing with, and then tell your story, since they already know that. Tell the story of the next pages from then on. If it's like a generative research study, you like imagine you're reading a book, right? Like think about that presentation like that. You first want to know like some of the general things, then go into more detailed. And or like you first want to know like the characters more, then get more excited about what's happening, and then end with happy ending. So that could be like your base of like the flow that you're following for generative studies. For example, if you are exploring users' needs, you can first explain what the users' needs are, and then get them excited about how users think this product, this concept matches with their needs or unmatches with their needs. And then what do they want later on, like at the end as a closing argument. So it like you don't have to follow the exact same order that you ask your users the questions to. Just try to make a good story out of it that actually makes sense, that your audience can make sense if you're not there presenting it. Once they come in and read it, like, okay, this is tied to this, or they're not like presented with a slide that they don't really understand what's happening there, but then in later slides it's explained. That's not how it would be working, right? So you want to first explain what's happening and then connect that with other insights that you found later. So once you think about that, your story will build up in a flow that actually is making sense to your audience, to your stakeholders. I hope this answers your question.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Vidal also had a recommendation for a good book, Atomic Habits by James Clear. So just putting it out there. And there was another question from Michelle to Liz. Do we save lessons learned part for the case studies only at the end or sprinkle throughout the case study?
I will say you can put it in the middle, like in the part where you actually learn that lesson. Maybe you can mention it briefly, but I would expect to see it at the end, because I will normally read the lessons learned at the end, because it's a very important thing to me, because I like people who can think back, and reflect. So I will just mention it briefly somewhere there, but at the end, definitely explain more why you learned this, what the mistake you did.
Awesome. And there was also a question from Uruj to Yagmur.
Yeah.
First of all, complimenting on your wonderful presentation. They're also asking, could you kindly share the links mentioned within the presentation under the head resources?
Yeah.
Here in the chat.
Oh, you want me to copy paste them there? Okay. They are going to share the link to my presentation, which you'll be able to click on them, but I'll just add them here too. Just 1 second.
I think CJ would also have shared. Yeah, there we go.
The link to my presentation will be shared with you all, so you don't have to copy paste it from here. Yeah, sure, totally.
Awesome. I know we're pretty much on time. Did anybody have any questions as well? Any other questions?
I would like to take a photo with everyone. If anyone would like to on their cameras, beautiful faces, we can take a picture. Please go ahead and turn on your camera. As this is our last workshop for this particular challenge, UXR challenge. So yeah, wow. See so many beautiful faces we can see now. Nice. Okay, so let me just go ahead and take a photo. 3, 2, 1. Go. Perfect. One more slide. Yeah. 3, 2, 1. Go. Perfect. Nice to see you, everyone.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Yagmur and Liz, for your presentations. Very insightful. The links for those will be shared again. And if anybody wants to check out more or go back to the presentation, there will be a video posted on our YouTube channel as well. Feel free to revisit the presentations and feel free to connect with everybody else as well. This is pretty much like Padma said, last workshop for this challenge. Super excited to see what you guys have been working on in the presentation day. And yeah, that concludes today's event. Thank you everybody for joining. Thank you, Yagmur and Liz, once more.
Hey everyone, on behalf of IterateUX, we would like to thank you so much for watching this week's event. If you like the content, please leave a like and subscribe. We'll have events every Thursday at 5:30 Pacific Time. Join our Discord in the description to find out more.